Good evening, everyone. Okay, first on our agenda, we're going to swearing in of our elected officials, starting with the auditors. So Alan Malakowski, right, and Winter Morris. It'll be separate, right?
Yes,
Winter.
We're going to be separate.
Yeah.
Separate.
Okay.
Okay. We'll figure this out.
That sounds like a good idea for picture purposes. Okay. All right. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm very excited to welcome our newly elected public officials and anxious to work with all of you. Okay. Please repeat after me. I, Alan Malakowski,
I, Alan Malachowski,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of auditor
and I will discharge the duties of auditor
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome back. She'll need your Bible. Okay. Here we go. Please repeat after me. I, Winter Morris,
I, Winter Morris,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of auditor
of auditor
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have our tax collector, Tina Stahl.
Did you bring it up? You're good. Welcome aboard. Okay. Can you get that? Okay. Do you want to switch around a little bit?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. We can go right here. Yeah. There we go. Okay, please repeat after me. I, Tina Stahl,
I, Tina Stahl,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of real estate tax collector
and I will discharge the duties of real estate tax collector
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations. Oh, Tina. Hurry. She's ready to work.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, our Board of Supervisors.
Two more.
Yeah, board, yeah.
Category. Category.
Yeah, our Board of Supervisors, Alec Pelletier and Tom.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, please repeat after me. I, Eric S. Pelletier,
I, Eric S. Pelletier,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of Township Supervisor
and I will discharge the duties of Township Supervisor
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
And congratulations. This is too pretty. Okay. Here we go. Please repeat after me. I, Beth A. Staub,
I, Beth A. Staub,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and I will discharge the duties of Township Supervisor
and I will discharge the duties of Township Supervisor
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
in Montgomery Township, Montgomery County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's it. Right? Oh, pictures.
Thank you all for having me. Have a wonderful new year. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations to all of our new officials. Okay, we're going to go right into our agenda. So I think someone has to nominate me as temporary chair.
I move to nominate Audrey Ware Jones as temporary chair.
Second?
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, go right into the election of chair of the Board of Supervisors.
Should we call to order and do the pledge?
Am I skipping?
Oh, we forgot the pledge.
Oh my goodness, I sure did. Let's do that. Pledge of Allegiance, everyone. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, a member of the Board of Supervisors must nominate another member of the board to serve as a chair for 2026. Another board member would need to second that nomination, and then members will take a vote to elect the member to serve as a chair for 2026.
I would like to nominate Tanya Bamford for chair.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now a member of the Board of Supervisors will nominate another member of the board to serve as a
You're
Oh.
switching over, so the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, it does actually say 2026 on this page now. Thanks, Nadia. I fixed the big
No,
gravelty.
Thank you, Supervisor Ware Jones, and I'd just like to acknowledge your leadership over the past year, and thank you very much for your service to Montgomery Township. Moving on to agenda item number 5, the election of the vice chair of the Board of Supervisors. I will entertain a motion for vice chair for 2026.
So I'll make a motion to elect Beth Staub as the Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery Township for the year 2026.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Now, I know we've already sworn him in officially. However, agenda item number 6 is to officially appoint Alan Malachowski to our Board of Auditors vacancy. On December 15th, 2025, Supervisor-elect, or then Supervisor-elect Eric Pelletier submitted his resignation from the Board of Auditors to begin his term as a newly elected Township Supervisor. Alan Malachowski recently completed his term as a member of the Board of Auditors and has offered to serve in the vacant position until the next local election. I will move to appoint Alan Malachowski to the Montgomery Township Board of Auditors effective January 5th, 2026, to serve an existing 6-year term vacated by Mr. Pelletier until the next local election in 2027.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 7, resolution 2026-01, establish the holidays, meeting dates, official appointments, and treasurer's bond. We have resolution 2026-01 that's attached that establishes our township holidays for 2026, the Board of Supervisors meeting dates for 2026, the township official appointments, and set the treasurer's bond amount for 2026. I'll move to approve resolution 2026. Is there a second? Second. Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Agenda item 8, resolution 2026-02, acknowledgement of the professional appointments to boards, committees, and commissions, qualified depositories, and approve authorized drivers. So with this resolution, we acknowledge the professional appointments to boards, committees, and commissions, qualify the depositories, and approve authorized drivers for township-owned vehicles for commuting purposes for 2026. I'll move to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any public comment? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Agenda item 9, approval of the 2026 fee schedule. Attached in the board packet is the updated fee schedule for 2026 with a summary of proposed changes. I'll move to adopt the 2026 fee schedule effective January 5th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor of adopting the 2026 fee schedule, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Agenda item 10, approval of the township consultant fees. The fees for all of our consultants for 2026 are attached. I'll move to approve the fees for 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none. All those in favor, say
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Agenda item 11, approval of the manager's employment agreement. An agreement has been prepared to extend the term of employment of Carolyn McCreary as Township Manager for a 1-year period to be effective January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026. The agreement includes a description of the duties of the manager, salary, township vehicle and equipment, benefits, provisions for removal, terminal leave, and notice of resignation, definition of just cause, and miscellaneous and general provisions. I'll move to authorize the execution of the Township Manager's Memorandum of Agreement effective for the period January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda item 12. Certify the delegate to the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors. So the board will designate its voting delegate for the Pennsylvania State Association for Township Supervisors Annual Conference in Hershey, PA. The board should nominate a supervisor who is planning to attend the conference this year, April 19th through the 22nd, 2026, to serve as the township's voting delegate. I'll entertain a motion to certify that Eric S. Pelletier will be the voting delegate to represent Montgomery Township as the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors PSATs delegate for us in the year 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Appointment of board liaisons to township committees. So members of the Board of Supervisors elect to serve as liaisons to the various township boards and commissions. So we'll have a motion to appoint the following board members to serve as liaisons to the following committees, boards, and agencies for 2026. For the Business Development Partnership Committee, Tanya Bamford. For the Community and Recreation Center Committee, Eric Pelletier. For the Environmental Advisory Committee, Beth Staub. For the Finance Committee, Audrey Ware-Jones. For the Human Relations Commission, Tanya Bamford. For the Open Space Committee, Beth Staub. For Parks and Recreation Board, Beth Staub. For the Police Pension Committee, Carolyn McCreary. For the Planning Commission, Candace Chimera. For the Public Safety Committee, Eric Pelletier. For the Senior Committee, Audrey Ware-Jones. For the Sewer Authority Board, Tanya Bamford. And for the Shade Tree Commission, Candace Chimera. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And does that conclude our solicitor walk call? Does that conclude our reorganization meeting?
That should conclude the reorg for tonight, yes.
Do I need to make a motion to adjourn and so that we can begin our regular business meeting?
It's probably proper to adjourn and then adjourn into the business meeting.
Okay, I'll move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none, our organization meeting is concluded. Now,
We can make them available to leave if they'd like.
and if anybody who is here for any of the swearing-ins or reorganization portions of this agenda and would like to leave now, you are more
You're
than
free
welcome
to do so.
You're free to do so, or stay. You're also welcome to stay. Okay.
Thank you for coming.
I don't want to stay. Yeah, it's
Okay. Totally understandable. All right, so then I'm going to call our action meeting to order for Montgomery Township Board of Supervisors for January 5th, 2026. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance once this evening. I don't know that we need to do it a second time.
No, it's just once for the meetings in general.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our first agenda item, let's see, we moved some things around. And yeah, I know that we had talked about that, but one of the first items on our agenda was to swear in our new police officer. And I thought maybe in deference to all the people who are anxiously awaiting that particular moment, we might move that up on the agenda.
Makes sense.
Okay, so let us skip ahead to agenda item 4. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Chief William Peoples.
Thank you. Anyone post up? On June 16th, 2025, a recruit hiring process was initiated to fill a vacancy within the department's patrol division. 31 applicants competed for the position of recruit police officer in the hiring process. The police department hiring process included an application review, written tests, physical agility test, 2 police oral review boards, a background investigation, including a polygraph examination, neighborhood interviews, physical exam, psychological exam, drug testing, and employer interviews. Hannah Cloberdance was selected as the top candidate, is before the board this evening for consideration for appointment to the position of recruit police officer. Hannah was born and raised in the Hatboro-Horsham area. She graduated from Hatboro-Horsham High School. Following graduation, she joined the United States Marine Corps and served 5 years on active duty, where she was an aviation technician. While in the Marine Corps, she was promoted to the rank of corporal before being honorably discharged at the completion of her enlistment. Hannah Cloberdance attended Montgomery County Community College Police Academy from June 2025 until she graduated from the Police Academy on December 10th, 2025. In her free time, Hannah enjoys spending time outdoors with her 2 sons. She is a volunteer for WAGS Rescue, which is a nonprofit organization that rescues dogs and helps them get adopted. Funding to fill the position was included in the 2025 approved budget. It is recommended that Hannah Cloberdance be sworn in as recruit police officer with an effective hire date of January 6, 2026.
Well, we're very excited to welcome you, Hannah, and looking forward to having you serve us here in Montgomery Township. And with that, I'll move to appoint Hannah Cloberdance as recruit police officer in the Montgomery Township Police Department effective January 6, 2026.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will enforce the laws
that I will enforce the laws
of the Commonwealth
of the Commonwealth
and the ordinances
and ordinances
of Montgomery Township,
of Montgomery Township.
and that I will discharge the duties
I will discharge the duties
of police officer
of police officer
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I do further swear
I do further swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will uphold,
that I will uphold,
obey, and enforce
obey, and enforce
the law without consideration
the law without consideration
to a person's race,
to a person's race,
color,
color,
sex,
sex,
religious creed,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap, or
handicap,
disability.
or disability. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta love little boys.
Okay. And now if there's anyone else who would like to depart,
No.
You will not offend us. Okay, yes, we're getting back on track here with public comment.
Item 2.
Okay. Okay, I'll just give it a second. Okay, all right, we're gonna go back to agenda item 2 right now, which is public comment. If there's anyone who has comment to make on any items that are not agenda items that, or should any items that are not on our agenda, please step forward and
I have.
then we have one.
Jay Wachewski, Pinecrest. I had a few quick questions. First one is, I was here at the last meeting, the 2026 budget. What's the plans to address the budget gap that we have where we had to take $7 to $8 million out of reserve? If I'm looking at it quick, we got what, 11, 12 left. If we have that same gap next year by 2027, we're not going to have money to make up the gap. Am I looking at it correctly? Or
Okay, Mr. Wachowski, we are actually, we do have an agenda.
I can't
item.
hear you. Is your microphone on?
Yes.
Yes, my microphone's on.
Okay.
There is an item on the agenda later where we're going to be discussing the 2026 budget.
Okay.
And so,
going to address that part of it. Okay. Fair enough. Question 2, quick. When I was here last time, I asked about the financial software and found out, we were going back to the company we were at 3 years ago. I forgot, I wasn't prepared for that one, but I have a follow-up question is, how confident are we that we're not going to be doing this again in 3 years, going back to the same company? Because my understanding was it's going to take 5 years to break even on this second decision to put in new financial software. Is that correct from the last meeting?
so
Should I address that, Tanya?
yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, that's correct. It'll take 5 years to break even. We are extremely confident.
All right.
We have extensively researched the new company, their new software.
Well, it's the same
we've had
company
all,
from 3 years ago. Am I
yes,
correct? But they have new software.
same software, cloud version of the old,
Cloud Okay.
of the old server-based software.
I'm concerned when I hear that we going back to the same people with the same similar software, and it did cost us significant amount of money, I believe.
Yeah,
Confident that we won't be
we are all
5 years.
all the departments, the IT department, everybody has been involved in looking at the software, and we are very confident.
All right, so we're highly confident. All right.
Yes.
Last quick question. I've asked about it before. The EV charging stations. What's the status of that? Last time I asked was you were looking into it. Has anybody looked into it further, or is it just being tabled for the time being?
We looked into grants because the EV charging that you can do at your residence is a level 1. The EV charging that would be available to visitors and people who live near the rec center would be a level 2, which they would pay for, which means it would charge faster, similar to what you see at Wawa's and other places like that. The goal would be to have it fully funded through the grants that are available without the township having to spend any money.
Okay. For how long? I mean, what's the
Mr. Wachowski?
lifespan of a charging station?
Just to clarify, public comment is for making comments and not necessarily a question and answer session,
All right.
because we're trying to get through a lot of business on the
I
agenda.
just have a concern that it doesn't seem to be a need that the township residents are asking for. And it seems more like, to me, it's a solution looking for a problem, but that's my perspective. So
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
As it moves forward, Madam Chair, it would be brought before the Board of Supervisors. Any grant applications we make or any discussion would be put on a public agenda for you.
Thank you.
and grants still come out of our pockets, but much smaller.
Any other public comment before we move on? All right, we're going to agenda item 3 right now, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented for the minutes for the December 15th, 2025 board meeting, payment of bills for the January 5th, 2026 meaning North Wales Water Authority tank, end of maintenance for site improvements and extension of maintenance bond for landscaping items, and escrow release number 8 for the Higher Rock residential development.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, review and consider advertisement of a proposed ordinance amendment regarding the feeding of animals. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Thank you. Good evening. The Board of Supervisors received an email from a resident on Grays Lane regarding a neighbor who's feeding animals, which she believes has resulted in the destruction of her lawn and landscaping while creating a health hazard because of animal waste in her yard. This resident reached out to Supervisor Ware Jones, who asked the Township Manager and the Solicitor to review the ordinances and see if any other municipality has anything addressing this. Included in your packet is an ordinance amendment drafted by the Solicitor. Ms. McConnell can explain any enforcement process that would occur should this ordinance be considered for adoption.
Enforcement would be a little bit challenging. We normally would start with a complaint, and then we would send out a notification just educating the resident of, should we adopt the ordinance, that there's a prohibition against feeding the animals. Following that, if they should not comply and they continue to do so, and the complaint advises us that it continues, we would send a follow-up notice. It could ultimately lead to a certified letter, level 3 notice, we call it, and up to citations. Citations is where it becomes a little bit tricky because we're not witnessing it ourselves. So we would need that individual or complainant to agree to potentially testify if it goes that far.
I have some concerns about this only in that there could be incidental occurrences where someone has something like a compost pile and puts food scraps out that are then consumed by animals, and it's unintentional, but sort of a side effect of putting out those food scraps, and that potentially that could be the source of a complaint and a dispute among neighbors, and it would seem to be very difficult to enforce something of that nature.
That would, I think at that time, we would request that they make reasonable accommodations to try and prevent that from occurring. I'm not too familiar with compost piles, but I do believe they are somewhat secured or covered or in a container so that it doesn't.
But do we have any regulations in place for compost piles?
No, we do not.
No. So then it just sort of compounds and could potentially escalate. And we don't have a way to regulate composting. And people regularly do put out food for composting. I mean, food scraps for that purpose. It seems as if this might merit a little further study before we try to take any action on it. Is there any other comment, any other board discussion?
I think the compost is certainly an issue. I think it's something that maybe the Environmental Advisory Committee could take on into consideration to do a little more research on it. In that, I believe that generally when people do composting, there's yard waste composting, and then they do their kitchen scraps in a more contained area or container. But again, I'm not an expert in that, so I'd have to do some exploration in that to see that would be the things that would attract the animals, or stray cats, or whatever animal it would be.
So would that become like a separate ordinance, or does it,
Or exemption.
or an exemption of? But if someone were to send some sort of, to say that their neighbor's doing X, Y, Z, and notice is sent to the neighbor, and the neighbor says to us, "Oh, I'm composting," is that something that we would, address at that time? I mean, how do you regulate that for individual people?
Well, because we don't have a composting, ordinance or a note in our ordinance related to composting, it would seem like, that would.
Well, some municipalities have composting ordinances that regulate how composting is to be done in order to avoid this particular issue or smell issues or nuisances. This ordinance does say specifically that a person cannot store food scraps or other forms of animal foods outside of a structure, including for the purpose of composting or generating gardening materials, unless such food scraps or forms of animal food, which is essentially any types of food, are in an enclosed container or otherwise inaccessible to wild animals. So again, if it was in a container or a composting container, that would be covered. And then there is a specific exception this does not apply to the disposal of food waste in covered enclosed trash or composting receptacles. So again, you're not going to be at fault if an animal gets into your trash can.
Right.
They're not going to be at fault if someone gets into your composting receptacle. But Chair Bamford, you're right that if somebody is composting by creating a pile on the ground where they also throw their grass and their leaves, and then they dig a hole and they throw their scraps and they fill it up. Which I'm not going to admit that's what I do, not in Montgomery Township, but when I compost, that would technically be potentially an issue. It really comes down to intent. And if you're trying to say, well, I'm trying to make sure these animals don't get to what I'm feeding them, I'm trying to put it in there, I think we would not be enforced and wouldn't be a violation. But you can't just throw your food where it's readily able to be obtained by wild animals and say, oh no, I'm not feeding the animals, I'm just composting. Try to close that loophole. So there is that gray area as to what is an acceptable composting facility. And again, that is an ordinance that some municipalities have. Montgomery Township does not have that.
It just seems that we ought to, maybe define that a little more specifically before trying to adopt another ordinance that, really references composting in a way that we don't really have defined already. So, could we table this instead? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have comment?
I'm just curious. We have this email from one resident. Have we heard from anybody else on this particular subject?
So I actually experienced it too in my development, but it's I have heard it just randomly. There's a specific person I had a one-on-one conversation, and so that led to, oh, do we have anything around that? And that led me to talk with our solicitor about it. So that's really how this all came to be. I mean, and then I think I did have one-off conversations, actually, I think with each of you around it with regard to, just putting some sort of structure around it, because we shouldn't be feeding wild animals. And so did we have anything, and then do we want to look at putting something in place? So that's how it all it's been kind of going on for a few months now. And then, like I said, I went to John on it, and then we, knowing we had something like this in other places, we kind of put together, hopefully, and go forward ordinance.
It would also be nice to just have something that had some teeth in it. I had a problem with foxes in my yard last year. Just coming, laying down, couldn't let the dog out, like destroying the yard, torturing the dog, and just found the neighbor was just leaving chicken out every day for the dog, for the foxes. So there was nowhere to go with it. We were told to call animal control. They would come out, look after the foxes. They never even call back. So it's a very tough circle to be in when it's happening. So I think anyone who's struggling with it would really like to be able to have something to go with.
And do we still, though, to your point, Tanya, still look at an ordinance around composting? I don't know, John, it might be premature to answer the question, but does this speak to it enough that once we look at maybe an ordinance for composting, it can incorporate in what's the bits that are here around it?
If the board want to move forward with the composting ordinance, which I have done for other municipalities,
right,
it would be easy to essentially say, if you're composting in line with our ordinance, that would be exempt from this situation.
Right, because there is an area for definitions and exemptions within this.
Correct. And right now we have an exemption for disposing of food in covered and closed composting receptacles.
Mm-hmm.
If the board wanted to permit other forms of composting, we could just reference, that would be accepted, that if you're complying with that ordinance, that'd be accepted from what is defined as feeding wildlife.
To clarify, so I've also had complaints especially about feeding foxes.
Yeah.
And one of my neighbors down the street was putting cat food out for record, foxes are omnivores, and they do not need to be fed. And and I know that there have been incidences also recently where people were putting out food for deer, and not just this individual that you complained in
No,
Spring
it's,
Valley
it's an
Park.
issue in my
It's an
development.
it is definitely it's an issue, and I'm not suggesting that we table this forever, but I do feel as if we need to define composting more specifically prior to taking action on this. So that would be my recommendation, would be to table this while we create a definition for composting and then bring this back to the agenda for further action.
And and again, I'm going to lean on John. I kind of feel like one is separate from the other. Separate meaning they tie together, but we need to now, it sounds like, an ordinance for composting.
I don't really want to make an ordinance for composting. I feel like that's
Yeah.
too much of us interfering in people's yards.
And again, the composting ordinance would be more complicated. It would talk about where you could have it on property lines. and
Right,
such.
and
Yeah.
then we'd
So-
have to have approvals and.
So the compost itself wouldn't be a nuisance, but you could just define what is a proper composting receptacle in line, create a definition for this particular ordinance and have it just for this particular ordinance. It would then just be a discussion as what does the board like to consider as a proper composting receptacle or proper composting process.
So can we then ask the EAC to weigh in with the language that they would like to see as the definition within this ordinance to define an acceptable composting?
I think you would ask the EAC to say, we would like to allow people to compost and not be in violation. How can they properly compost and come up with what the definition of composting or composting facility would be, composting mechanism, receptacle, or what they'd recommend.
Right, and this really could be a great public outreach program as well, because I think composting is something we should do more of, but we have to do it responsibly and effectively so it's not a nuisance to our neighbors. So I think this is probably a good topic to have as public.
And I would assume that if they came up with the proper receptacle they would prefer, and the board wanted to move forward with a composting ordinance in the future, that work would already be done. They would then just have to figure out how composting as a process itself would be otherwise regulated. So it could be reused, that work from the EAC. But certainly we could create what that definition would be and then exempt that from the process.
And then revisit this.
And revisit this with that definition included.
Okay.
Is everybody on board with that? Is that
Yeah.
acceptable?
I'm comfortable with
Yes,
that.
if we're not looking at a separate compost ordinance, but versus just looking at
Like
what
that,
that
creating
what
a
it has
definition.
defined
Specific.
and then
So our
build it in here.
action would be to table this particular ordinance for the time being, and we're going to assign Supervisor Staub as the liaison to the Environmental Advisory Commission to visit the topic at their next meeting and
Will do.
invite them to help us create that definition.
On it.
Okay, wonderful. And we will not take any action on that. Is there any public comment? No? Okay, moving on. Agenda item 6, review of zoning hearing board application. So included in your packet is a summary of the application before the zoning hearing board for the January 7th, 2026 meeting. Potential actions of the board are to remain neutral on the application and let the zoning hearing board render a decision based on the testimony presented, or the board may send the solicitor's office to oppose any application. And this action would require a motion, a second, and a vote of the board. Feedback? The application is the Refuge Church of North Penn, located at 804 Bethlehem Pike, Montgomery Ball.
I'm happy to be neutral.
I agree.
Okay, so the zoning hearing board can handle this matter without interaction from the board. Any public comment? No? Okay, moving on. Agenda item 7, consider the advertisement of proposed ordinance amendment, sewer rental charges. Carolyn, did you want to
Certainly.
introduce this one?
So included in your packet is a memorandum from Sewer Authority Executive Director Shannon Drosnock requesting the board's approval to advertise an ordinance amendment for sewer rental charges. She noted that historically the rates have been updated by ordinance. However, this is not an industry standard, and the authority is proposing to move towards industry standards, which would then have this ordinance drafted by the Sewer Authority Solicitor, directing that future rate increases be approved by resolution of the Montgomery Township Municipal Sewer Authority Board and not further adopted by ordinance. And staff is recommending that the board authorize the advertisement of the ordinance.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'll move to authorize the advertisement of the ordinance number 26-355 sewer rental charges. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item 8, ratification of real estate tax appeal settlement, 506 Dump Road. Blaine Berkey, our Director of Finance.
On October 30, 2024, the school district filed an appeal for the property tax for the 2025 tax year, disputing the assessed value of 506 Stump Road of $1.8 million, following the Board of Assessment and Appeals issuance of a notice of no change in assessment. The budget impact, the proposed settlement between the school district and the taxpayer would result in the taxpayer owing an additional $1,083 to the township for the 2025 tax year, with the assessed value increasing by $227,000. The solicitor's office has reviewed the proposed settlement and recommends the Board of Supervisors approve the settlement.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to approve the stipulated settlement for the 506 Dump Road property and authorize the township solicitor to execute the document on behalf of the township.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item 9, opening of accounts at Fulton Bank and Pliget. Blaine Berkey, Director of Finance.
All of Montgomery Township's funds, currently in excess of $24 million, are held at Univest Bank. While those funds are collateralized under Act 72, there are potential limitations in that coverage. And as such, the township has a secondary letter of credit for $12,500,000 with the Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh. Due to a desire for diversification of at least above the letter of credit amount, as well as to have a relationship with Fulton Bank, located in Montgomery Township, and Pliget, Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, it is recommended that the accounts are opened at those institutions. Both have interest rates comparable to that of Univest. The Univest investment account was recently closed due to its interest rate being lower than that of the money market account, with its approximately $12 million balance being transferred to that money market. It is proposed that those funds be split between Fulton and Pliget, with $6 million going to each. The budget impact is none. Recommendation, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors authorize the opening of accounts at Fulton Bank and Pliget, and that roughly $6 million be transferred from Univest to each institution to those new accounts.
Very straightforward. Any discussion from the board?
Are the fees pretty similar that they're going to charge us, since we had been with Univest for a long time and had a long-term
Yes.
relationship?
Fulton is very comparable and Pliget is almost none. Pliget's kind of like Divot in the sense that it's a trust for Pennsylvania municipalities, so they don't really have a profit motive in that sense.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And these, I'm assuming they've worked with municipalities before.
Yes.
I know I use Fulton Bank for my personal, I should say for my business accounting and my business account. and have always thought they were wonderful to work with.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Fulton. I worked with Pliggett before, and Fulton I was really impressed with when I met with them.
And Pliggett is solely local government. That's what they deal with. So and to Blaine's point, they are a trust, so they don't charge the fees that a normal bank would charge.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the opening of accounts at Fulton Bank and Pliggett and transfer $6 million from the current money market account at Univest to each.
Second.
No, is there a motion? I entertained a motion that one.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Any public comment? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, agenda item 10, consider the authorization of the reopening of the 2026 adopted budget. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Section 3202D of the Second Class Township Code provides for the Board of Supervisors to amend the budget in January following a municipal election. The decision to reopen the budget must be made by a majority vote. All budget discussions and decisions need to take place at advertised public meetings. The board must also advertise the availability of the proposed amended budget at least 10 days before adoption. The board has until February 15th to adopt an amended budget. Based on the explanation we received from PSATS, which is the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, regarding the reopening of the 2026 budget, I have mapped out the following. Tonight, the board may authorize the reopening of the budget. At your next meeting on January 26th, myself and Mr. Berge would present the amended budget for review, discussion, and seeking an authorization to advertise. On January 28th, we would advertise the amended budget as being available for public inspection on our website and here in the office. And February 9th, which would be your first meeting in February, you would be able to adopt the amended budget. And then on February 10th, we would notify the tax collector of any changes to our real estate tax millage and our fire tax if applicable.
Board discussion? I can start. I can start. Okay, so, the 2026 budget as it was passed last year included provision for a significant tax increase, 1.15 mils, that was associated with an expansion of our fire department. And at the time, I voted against that because we didn't provide any provision. There was no provision made for our capital reserves and millage increase associated with that, which had been previously discussed and is warranted given the state of that particular fund and the potential for that fund to be depleted by the end of 2027. So provision needed to be made for that and wasn't in that budget. And also, I felt very strongly that the proposal for the firefighter expansion needed to be revisited by an independent consultant to ensure that, the plan was solid. It had never been independently verified. It was something that was developed internally. And I believe that we needed to stress test, challenge the assumptions, and ensure that we had a solid plan moving forward. So what I would propose is that we reopen the budget, dial back the millage increase to 1.0 mils instead of 1.15, and apportion that millage increase across the fire fund and the capital reserve fund, and leave a small portion also for the general fund. So that would be my proposal, and I can also outline the amounts if we'd like, but I want to have more board discussion about this.
As a resident following along the budget process last year, my concern had been throughout the year that the fire department proposal numbers kept changing, it seemed. So to make a decision based on numbers that I didn't trust as a resident, I would agree that reopening the budget and looking at a comprehensive study of what we really need in the township, and looking not just at staffing, but also the infrastructure and the equipment and other needs that we might have, because that might affect how many firefighters we can afford to add to the budget. So I would be in favor of reopening and looking at that.
I'll add that I also agree that we need to have an independent, comprehensive study that really looks at the variables that our needs are based on our scheduling, what kind of hiring we might need to have, as well as the associated expenses with that hiring. I also am concerned about, as was pointed out by Mr. Wachowski, that we have, and Supervisor Bamford, that we have to have provisions for our capital reserves. We have to make sure that we have also some money put into our general funds for unexpected costs. So I would also propose that we have a reopening of the budget as proposed by Supervisor Chair Bamford.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought
Additional?
I saw it. Yeah, I thought I saw Candace's hand go over. So as last year mentioned, with regard to the comprehensive, from a staffing perspective, I don't think it's needed from when it's time to look at infrastructure and equipment. 100% on board. Well, with regard to our fire, I'm talking about our fire. Because, we don't know what we don't know with regard to that. But we did have a chief that did do the work and, had definitely identified. And yes, the numbers were different because we talked about it for months. And so we then looked at what was taking into consideration our community and the tax increase. We went to what was the lowest or smallest high amount of hire that we would still at least build that safety for our community that we currently don't have. So the staffing piece of it to me is done. Still in my head, it's done. With regard to infrastructure and equipment and all of that, unless we are going to move on that stuff now, I don't know that it makes sense to do any kind of comprehensive around that, because if anyone who has had many, and I have had many studies done, if you're not going to act on it within the first year, maybe 2 years, it becomes dated information. So, it'll go on a shelf somewhere. And if we pull it down 5 years from now, we will need to do it again and pay the money again to do it again. So that piece of it, I'm saying, may not be something we want to look at. I'm sorry, that piece of it, if this is happening, shouldn't be done at this time. And initially, it was just staffing that was being proposed from some of the board members. So that's just something to think about. And then with regard to, our capital reserve and our general fund, I know that Carolyn had spoke about, where we are, what plans she had in place on, possibly building, looking at grants and all of that kind of stuff that might bring in some funds, money for us. And I'm sure that'll all still be done. But I'm confident too that we probably will still have the conversation. We're going to still have that conversation, whether we put money in it now or didn't put money in it now. We're still going to have the conversation 27, 28, 29, because, it's just the nature of the beast that we do need to look at and figure out how, what those increases, if anything, may equate to. So that's where I'm at. I'm not in favor of reopening the budget. I mean, one millage, and I think the real thing that Tanya was talking about is the moving it from, we were talking 1.5 for fire, but now to go to 1 and then a piece of it go into capital reserve, if I'm hearing you correctly, right, Tom?
So it's what I'm proposing is an overall increase of 1.0 mils, which 0.44 would go to the fire tax, which would allow for some expansion. 0.45 to go to capital reserves, and then the remaining 0.11 just into the general fund. It creates some additional funds because we have other budgetary pressures that we're being faced with constantly. So that is the proposal that I would put forward instead of the 1.15 mils that was proposed, with all of it going to the fire fund for an expansion that I don't have confidence in right now in terms of how it was conceived.
I will just state again that I'm not in favor of it. I think Bill gave us a great plan for what we need in our township. And I don't think anyone's taking into consideration the unintended consequences of a study. When someone from the outside comes in and gives us their data, we don't know what they're going to say. They could say, we have to hire 20 people. We have to buy 4 new fire trucks. There's so much unknown that could blow the budget way, way out of line. So I'm not in favor of it.
And of course, any proposal that came back based on a study, that's done of this nature, we have the opportunity to implement all of it, portions of it, none of it. So that is sort of, something that comes to us, and then we have a decision to make once a study has been completed. But there was confirmation bias built into the study. There's bias built into the proposal that was presented to us. And, if it comes back and an independent study confirms the proposal that was put forward, wonderful. But I have a strong sense that more information will be uncovered, and other potential solutions will be explored. Dialing back the budget in this manner provides for some increase, approximately 6 additional full-time firefighters. And that's just in year 1, this year, 2026. When we get the results of a study back, and if it indicates that we need additional resources assigned, and that's something that we can explore as a part of next year's budget. But Supervisor Pelletier, did you have something that you wanted to add to this discussion, or any other thoughts?
The only thing I'll say, yeah, while a study would probably tell us information that could blow up our budget, like at home, I need to know information. Knowing the information that we need to see to make a sound decision for the township moving forward, we need to think strategically down the road, not just for next year or the year after, but 10 years down the road. So having that information, while it may increase what we need to look at, it's better to know that information now than to wait. So.
And I'm sorry, Tanya, did you say that with if the figures you just gave, it would allow for 6 new hires with the 0.44 going into?
Yes. It would still allow for some expansion. And, given some of the data that came out related to, certain days of the week and times of day, especially when the volunteers are responding, those types of gaps, if you will, in coverage, could be addressed potentially with those additional hires. But, we have a vacancy in our department head for our fire chief. And that's something that I think the study will actually be a great tool for them to use and assist them in, planning around staffing to fill those gaps where we feel like they need to be addressed. So, is there any public comment?
Hi, Kelly Elizardo, Embassy Drive. Just a question for you, and I know it's comments, not questions. I couldn't quite get from the 1.15 being an additional 11 to the 0.4 being an additional 6. The ratios didn't quite work. So maybe there's an assumption in there that I didn't understand.
It was an estimate.
Okay.
It's just an estimate.
Okay. I thought maybe you'd done some math that I wasn't aware of.
It was rough math, but it does allow, putting 0.44 mils in would generate just plus. It was $957,952.73 was what it was estimated, and so in trying to calculate what the the rough cost per FTE was, that's where we came up with that number.
Okay.
But again, rough estimate.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was math or something that you'd already done that was
No,
locked in.
don't hold me to 6, but generally speaking.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm one of the members of the fire department. I apologize for my appearance. We actually had a building fire all afternoon, so I didn't get a chance to run home and shower. But I just wanted to read this statement on behalf of the Montgomery Township Local 4890, the professional firefighters here in Montgomery Township. The past 3 weeks have been among the most challenging in our department's history. First, we lost our fire chief. Now, we have lost the very funding that he worked tirelessly to secure. Funding that was critical for maintaining effective fire protection in Montgomery Township. Some members of the board made it very clear that their plan was to open up the budget tonight to, do it exactly what you guys are doing here tonight. That decision alone is disappointing. However, the far greater loss is the departure of our fire chief. Many may not fully understand the significance of this loss, not only to our department, but also the township, the county, and the state. Chief Wigman was very involved in regional and statewide initiatives, many of which occurred behind the scenes. Over the past 5 years, he transformed this department, accomplishing more during his tenure than had been achieved in decades. His leadership, his vision, and his dedication elevated our organization to a level of respect and credibility within the public safety community. Regrettably, an environment marked by persistent doubt, ongoing criticism, and unnecessary obstacles surely made it very difficult for him to do his job. It is concerning that a fire chief who was widely respected and trusted throughout the region was not afforded the same level of trust by those who employed him. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to the members of the board who supported Chief Wigman throughout this process. He had a deep understanding of this department, relied on data-driven analysis, engaged directly with his personnel, volunteer and career, and consistently produced measurable results. He listened, he evaluated, and he led by example. Now, as you just mentioned, everything is on pause until a study is completed. There have been dozens of studies conducted in countless surrounding municipalities, and they all say the same thing. Chief Wigman took these studies into consideration when making these important and informed decisions. So, when this study confirms what Chief Wigman has stated consistently for the past 14 months, that Montgomery Township requires significant staffing increases to provide adequate fire protection, we hope the board is prepared to act. Many townships and departments were closely watching this process, believing Montgomery Township was prepared to lead by example. Instead, progress is stalled, and we find ourselves back to where we began 5 years ago. It is our sincere hope that the lessons from this experience will be taken seriously and that the same mistake will not be repeated with the next fire chief. Hire a leader that you trust to make difficult, informed decisions, rather than relying on a third-party agency to define the operational needs of the fire department. The board must now reflect and decide whether public safety is truly a priority. I'm sure you guys follow the news quite well. The tragedy that happened down in Bristol Township with the nursing home that exploded. Just to put things in perspective, this past weekend, a gas odor was reported inside of a nursing home in Montgomery Township. It took a Montgomery Township fire truck 12 minutes and 51 seconds to arrive on scene. Think about that. 12 minutes and 51 seconds. This isn't an isolated incident. It's a pattern, one we can no longer ignore. No skewed data, no hidden agenda, just the reality of emergency response here in Montgomery Township today. We now ask you this: what's the board's plan to immediately address these increased response times and potential gaps in coverage where a fire truck from Montgomery Township may not respond to an emergency?
Hi, Annette Long, Township resident. We're at just over 5.5 mils here. I recently read that Norristown, that only has 10,000 residents more than us and different structure there, is at 19 mils with taxes. A primary responsibility of the Municipal Township Board of Supervisors is to ensure stability and fiscal responsibility while also ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of its residents. However, some members of this board lack the financial and accounting expertise as well as the team leadership and complex organizational management experience necessary to fulfill these obligations. For many, many years, even decades, the Board of Supervisors has been made aware of the steady decline in volunteerism. Our now former Fire Chief William Wegman brought to the board's attention the growing need to expand the fire department due to declining volunteer numbers, delayed response times, and limited staffing. These issues are not theoretical. They directly impact the safety of Montgomery Township residents and businesses. We all know that fire and police services are inherently dangerous professions. It's therefore the board's responsibility to take the necessary steps to protect not only the residents and businesses of this township, but also to each and every firefighter, career and volunteer alike, even if it means an unpopular increase in taxes. Career staff and volunteers have pleaded for support, and Montgomery Township is now on clear notice that deficiencies in response times exist and that increasing fire staffing is critical to ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of both our community and our firefighters. While regional departments will eventually be a part of the national progression of fire service, that reality is likely many years from now. Montgomery Township had an opportunity to lead, to be a forerunner with a combined career and volunteer department guided under the leadership, knowledge, and expertise of Chief Wegman, a man who has been described as a mentor, a leader, an example of a humble servant with integrity and what professionalism should look like. Yet, due to the actions of a few, the fire chief's chair is now empty. And while I sat there as supervisor for my last meeting, I kept looking at that empty chair and wrote this. His chair sits empty, but its silence is louder than any spoken word. A reminder of a good fireman who served with a heart to serve and to protect. You see, no flags were lowered. No final call closed out his career. He did not fall beneath the flames or lose his fight to smoke or heat. He left with his helmet still within reach, his gear still intact, and his boots still on his steady feet. Years of his service line the walls, every call a lesson taught, a lesson learned. Yet politics crossed the bay floor and questioned everything he had known. Decisions were made beyond the firehouse by voices unfamiliar with heat and flames. They reduced his leadership and service to the outcome of a vote. This loss will not be carved into stone, and no memorial will bear his name. Yet Every firefighter, career volunteer feels the weight, and each one understands what it costs when good people are overthrown. For the hardest chair to face each shift is now empty because some supervisors let a good leader be pushed aside. And that chair remains a quiet witness long after the arguments fade, a reminder that leadership was lost here, not due to fire, but to political choices made.
Hi, Winter Morris, 111 Pinecrest Lane. I very much appreciate the passion and the poetic observations of our prior fire chief, who everything says was an incredible leader for this area. I have not, from my perspective, seen where he was so much pushed out. I do not understand how, if this was such a very competent proposal that he had, where is the objection to having another set of eyes? As a fiduciary responsibility, if this is a good plan, it should stand up to a second set of eyes. And to my understanding, that's all that was being asked, is let's have a competent second set of eyes on this. I don't understand why someone with his skills and experience would leave rather than allowing a second set of eyes. So I think it's very unfortunate that he made that decision. And obviously, a lot of people love him very much. And that's fine. But I still believe that it was the right decision to request another set of oversight on it.
Hello, everybody. Congratulations on your new appointments. My name is Chris Murphy, 105 Westminster Drive. I've been a resident for over 20 years here. I've moved to a couple different houses as my family grew, but I've always stayed in Montgomery Township because we have a great police department that's going to protect me. We've got great services in our public works. Sorry, I keep wanting to call them zoning, but it's not. And I've always felt very protected by our fire department. But when I learned that there wasn't 24/7 staffing, I got really concerned. I felt that when it was funded, I'm like, okay, we're moving in a good direction here. And frankly, if my taxes go up, we all have children. You know, if somebody's not, if I don't have a fire department that's going to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning to pull my kid out of the second floor, or there's a traffic accident on 202 where they're creamed and nobody's there to cut them out of the car, what's the cost of that? I can turn on the news and watch politics, all day long, and I'm sick and tired of it. I don't want to have to come to a township meeting and deal with the issues of safety. That's about politics, and I'm not saying it is or isn't, but there's a lot of politics talk, and like the conversation is about safety. And a question that I have for the empty seat, if maybe can be answered by somebody in the fire department, is if it took almost 13 minutes for somebody to respond to a gas leak, were we the first ones were we the first ones there in our own township? Like, really? Like, let's talk about the safety of this. I'm okay with spending a little bit more money. And God knows I don't have any money to throw at other things. But what's the cost of one of our kids or somebody in our family that's not going to be around because we didn't deal with the safety aspects of things? I mean, we dealt with squiggly lines to fix a traffic issue. Like the comment is really about defunding the fire department at this point. We dealt with defunding the police, and that really didn't work out for anybody across the country. Like, we defund the fire department, and something happens in this town that nursing home blows up. The conversation comes right to this floor with every news camera and conversation with a resident. So the conversation needs to be about safety, not about politics. Let's get this figured out and fixed, because anything happens to anybody, it comes right back to this conversation right here.
Back to the budget. my earlier question was, you said it would be addressed in this about how we're going to close the gap, this $7-8 million gap. I didn't hear that in the previous stuff. So is there some, I'm going to say task force or whatever, but is some group sitting there going, I did hear the part, we're going to not have enough money from the general fund or whatever fund, reserve fund, to close the gap like we did this year by 2027 or 2028, I guess. What's the plan? I suppose I'm going to make that comment in the form of a question, since I was said it's for comments. My comment is I didn't see a plan how we're going to close this gap so our revenues don't exceed, or our revenues fall short of our expenditures. Because right now there's a $7-8 million gap, if I'm not mistaken. So what are we going to do about it? Yeah, I see that as our biggest issue overall.
So I think the term gap implies that somehow I look at it, there's a shortfall. There's a shortfall between the revenue versus the expenditures. But we had a surplus in the general fund, which the board authorized as part of the budget to be used for the capital reserves. The 5-year capital plan we're nearing the end of, which we put together in 2020 when the board changed over. So we're finishing that. And next year, we are looking at significantly less in our capital spending. We're also anticipating another surplus in the general fund for this year that, if the board approves, once the audit is finished, we would transfer that money over. We'll continue to look for grants, obviously, but the department heads know that sort of the time for addressing all the things that had been neglected in prior years has passed. And now what we're doing is, we did a study for the rec center, and first we were told the concrete, we looked at what's forward facing for the public, what's the safety issue. The concrete was done first, then the gymnasium floor was done. 2026 we'll be looking at the parking lot lights and going to an upgraded solar system out there for better lighting and for safety for people who are there at night. But I guess the biggest thing that we're going to have to address is the fact that as long as the general fund continues to operate a surplus and the board is amenable to it, we will continue to transfer that into the capital reserves. Our road projects are going to be coming solely from liquid fuels, which is state money that we get every year along with every other municipality in the Commonwealth. So that will erase that shortfall, if you will. We've been sort of saving our money in liquid fuels because we knew that this coming year, 2026, we were going to have $1.5 million in road projects, not because our roads are falling apart, but because of what it costs now to pave the roads. We'll be talking to the board again after the audit, obviously, and the results of the operations. And the department head sat here through all the budget meetings, through the budget work session we have with the board, and they're all very aware that anything we have, it's going to be a matter of needs and prioritized by department.
If I could add one thing there to Tanya. Sure. Money that's being spent down from the capital reserve account, those funds have to be spent on capital reserve items. If there were surpluses in the past that build up the fund balance that's there now, that needs to be spent on capital reserve projects. It's not like we're short money in that sense and borrowing it to make up the deficit. Like the gap you talk about is just because we chose to spend prior year surpluses on capital reserve projects that need to be done now.
Okay, so when do we start looking, like a couple years down the road? I heard 5-year plan, and I'm not familiar with general reserve and the other different funds. I just look at the bottom line and saw that we had to our revenues were $7 or $8 million short.
Yeah, that's because we're choosing to spend.
And I'm just used to every year expenditures stay the same pretty much, or go up every year for everybody. But
well, that's not the way it works with capital
okay,
reserve
so
projects
millions of
necessarily.
dollars in expenditures because things are done. That's a different story. But
yeah,
I'm not that.
So the plan is to work on another 5-year plan beginning this year, because we're finished with the first 5-year plan. So we'll be looking 5 years out. So we will not have to buy fire trucks, which we had to purchase 3 in 5 years, including a ladder truck. We will not have to replace almost all the public works fleet, because again, we had trucks that were in excess of 20 years old and that were in the shop more than they were on the roads, especially during winter snowstorms. Our building has been maintained. I mean, people who come in here from the outside are amazed at how old the building is, but we maintain this as if you would a house. So, we replace the HVAC on it. We check the roof regularly. We're, with the rec center, it's 10 years old now. So the next big, after the lights, the next thing we're going to be looking at is the fitness equipment, because 10 years makes a difference. The people who are paying the fees there expect to have more modern equipment than they do. And it gets to a point where when they're down more than they're up, it's time to replace them. So that's what the task will be this year with, having a new finance director in place, is working with the departments and developing another 5-year plan that we'll present to the board.
I'm just got a concern that there's a gap and expenditures typically don't go down. So be wise.
Thank you. Any additional comment? Oh, okay.
John Almeida, Line Street. I've lived in this township for almost 36 years, back when we didn't have FDMT. We had Calmer was our cover, and Fairmount, or Worcester thing we needed, or Hatfield Horsham. I remember when the Montgomery Mart burned down. That was a big deal. And gradually over the years, we've become more urbanized. This has become the city, or city-like. And I'm not sure. We're not actually defunding the fire department. It's actually going in the other direction. We're getting more and more like a professional like they have in the city. I grew up in the city. But I don't think it was anything personal to do with the proposals from the chief. I mean, from what I only know from what I know, what I read, what I hear from other things. I read a lot of stuff, both sides. And numbers are numbers. It was math. Like when I was first really got into it about 6 months ago, the proposal at that point, I think it was 1.41 mils, and that was going to get us 19 firefighters. And that was the solid gold proposal. And then a few months later, it was 1.41 was going to get us 16, and 1.14 would get us 11. And things were changing. Basically, people couldn't answer the simple question. It wasn't a matter of trust. I mean, frankly, we don't have to trust you. I trust math. I mean, people can tell me anything. But if the math backs them up, then I'm good with that. If the math is there. And also, I come from more of a scientific background. And you have to be able to reproduce results, which means you hand the experiment over to someone else and they come up with the same conclusion. An outside voice, a consultant, another set of eyes, if they look at something and they see something that I don't see, that's a good thing. As for if they come back and say, oh, you're vastly underestimating your needs, wouldn't that be good to know we were looking at a substandard proposal before and we were going to approve it? And there's nothing to say we have to say yes. No one can force you. Like, you really need a Mercedes. I'm like, well, no, I'm going to buy a Toyota because I can afford a Toyota. I can't afford a Mercedes. It would be nice that the commercials are always saying they're so safe. I'm like, yeah, but we can't afford that. We can afford what we can afford. What people in this township can afford. I mean, I used to say I was a consultant, and we used to say I could do anything given unlimited time and funds. No one has unlimited time and funds. We have to work within a budget. And if you have to look, you have to hand it over to someone else and say, what do you see here? Another set of eyes isn't going to hurt. I hope not. And as for politics in this, I don't think fire doesn't really care if you're what side of the argument you're on. I mean, fire is just it's unrelenting, unforgiving enemy, and we have to fight. We all fight. I have smoke detectors in just about every room in my house because I want to know if something happens. Now that may be overkill. I mean, you hear about all the time when there's fires in the city. They have a house with no smoke detectors. We're somewhere in between that. We're going to hopefully the study will tell us it may be you did the exact right thing. What you have proposed is exactly what we need. But we need someone basically to say, this is good. I mean, it has nothing to do with trust. It has to do, and it has nothing to do with, frankly, I don't know the chief personally. I mean, he's done a great job for us in this township, from what I've read and what I've heard from other people. Fortunately, I haven't had any need for the fire department, but I feel lucky because a fire department is there for all of us. So, I mean, I'd like to thank the chief for all his years of service and everyone for doing what they do, but it's nothing personal. It's just, I hate to say, it's just business. It's money. It's money and how much we can afford and how much you want, how much do we need? There's some balance between that. It's all a compromise. And if you disagree with it, I mean, you know, I would disagree, frankly. Like I said, I grew up in the city. They have a hell of a lot more firefighters than you have. And you saw what happened a few years ago when the city shut down some of their fire stations. They had problems. They had gaps. They fixed that because they were in financial trouble. Fortunately, we're not in that kind of financial trouble. But we can address this. Hopefully, we can address this with sane, reasonable accommodations for what we need and what we can afford. That's all there is to it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
My name's Warren Sabia. I live at Pinecrest Golf Course Community. There's nothing wrong going on now. This is democracy. You all get elected. And you passed all sorts of little resolutions before we even got started. Bing, 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 bing. You're not going to agree on everything all the time. And when you don't agree, you get the majority and you move forward. You don't be bitter. You just don't agree. And it wasn't a unanimous decision on the firefighters in November. It is not going to be unanimous now. Whatever way it goes, trust yourself, have some respect for other people's opinion. And if you're wrong, somebody will point it out to you later on, but move on. Now, on the issue with the firefighters, there seems to be both sides want something done quickly. So if you're going to move towards getting the expert to tell you something, move quickly. That's all. And if it doesn't go, then you just accept it and move on. Thank you.
Thanks, Warren.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. I'll move to authorize the reopening of the 2026 adopted budget. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries.
Madam Chair, with that vote, I'm looking for board consensus then are we going to move forward with what you proposed with the 1 mil that would affect the revenue in the fire, the capital reserves, and the general purpose or general fund?
That would be my recommendation.
I concur.
Okay. We'll bring numbers back to you for the next meeting on the 26th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Oops, sorry. All right. Moving on to agenda item 11, the amendment of the adopted fire tax ordinance. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Thank you. In keeping with the proposed plan for a fire tax to be levied to support the operation of the township's fire department, the solicitor's office prepared and advertised an ordinance which established a fire tax in Montgomery Township. The ordinance was adopted on December 15th, 2025 at the Board of Supervisors public meeting. Adoption of the ordinance allowed us to notify the township's tax collector to revise the real estate tax bills to show this as a separate line item similar to the streetlight tax. As previously explained, we internally allocated 0.56 mils towards fire protection out of the 2025 real estate tax rate of 2.94 mils. The ordinance added 1.15 mils to this for a total of 1.71 mils. Staff is seeking board input so we can prepare an amendment if necessary and present it to the board at your next meeting on January 26th for authorization to advertise, with it being placed on the February 9th agenda for adoption. So based on your previous discussion, we would be moving forward with amending it from the fire tax of 1.71 mils to 1 mil.
Yes, correct. 1.0. Any discussion? All right, I'll move to amend. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you just explain that again to me? So this is a motion to amend, changing the millage of the fire tax from 1.71 to
1.0.
Currently 0.56.
right. It's currently 0.56. So this would be so we're pretty much agreeing to then your 0.4 or whatever amount you said you want to add to. Okay.
It's confusing because the fire tax would end up being 1 mil, but we were talking originally about having no further increase than a 1 mil increase. So 0.44 would go to fire plus the 0.56 that we were automatically internally moving money for. So that would make it to 1 mil. And then we would still have the 0.11 mil going into the general fund additionally, and the 0.45 mils going for capital.
Right. Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, with the adoption of the ordinance that was done at December's meeting, we're at 1.71 mils for fire. So if we amend it, it would take it down to 1 mil total.
And this is putting it in place, right?
This is authorizing the advertisement.
Just to advertise it. Okay. But how do you
Well,
authorize the
I'm sorry, this would be amending the ordinance. So it would authorize the solicitor and I to just redraft the ordinance to present to you at your next meeting.
Okay, just to redraft.
Yes, and then at that meeting, you would authorize the advertisement along with the amended budget, if that was the board's direction, so that we could keep in with the timeline to have it done by February 15th.
Because I thought the way I initially looked at this, like it was putting it in place, right?
No,
now.
this is just amending it. This would be authorizing us to amend it.
Any other questions or discussion? Then I will move to amend ordinance number 25-353, changing the millage of the fire tax from 1.0 mils. No, from 1.1, so 1.71 mils to 1.0 mils.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor, aye.
Aye. Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Agenda item 12, review and selection of consultant for fire services study. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
The last item I have for this evening is relating to the proposed fire services study. At your August 25th meeting, the board discussed the merits of having a third-party independent consultant evaluate the plan brought forth by Chief Wigman and review other options. It was also suggested that a comprehensive study of all fire operations be conducted. Consensus of the majority was to obtain quotes, with the board voting 4-1 to do so and report back. The firms that were contacted are the Center for Public Safety Management, LLC, Municipal Resources, Inc., and Aspirant Consulting Group, LLC. The costs for the study, Aspirant Consulting Group, LLC, range from $16,500 to $23,450, with a not to exceed $25,000 for phase 1, which involved solely with fire staffing. The Center for Public Safety Management proposed a fee of $47,560 for a full fire services study, including staffing. Municipal Resources, Inc. proposed $25,000 plus travel and expenses that would give us a management letter for relating to our staffing concerns, and $45,000 plus travel and expenses for a full fire study. Based on the discussions and statements during the 2026 budget presentation about the study, staff is seeking board direction and consensus as to which consultant to contact to perform the study and to what extent, if that's the board's desire.
Did we ever check with Center for Public Safety Management if they could carve out just the staffing piece of it on there? Because out of the, I see here only, and saw that it was only their proposal on here. They did have the best proposal, but was there any, did anyone, because I know I had asked if they.
No, we did not reach out to them again because at that point, the study was voted against by the board.
Yeah, no, it was before we voted against it, but okay. That was just a question. So we didn't. So that 47,000 is the whole full comprehensive,
Yes, that's correct.
because initially we were just talking staffing.
Based on the information we've been provided, the CPSM study seems to be the most comprehensive and complete, and that would be the one I would be in favor of going forward with. Do we know if we haven't contacted them, so we don't know if that fee is going to be the same, do we?
No, I have not contacted them since the last time we spoke.
But since that covers everything that I think we need as a township to be looking at, that's the one I would be in favor of.
I concur. I think if we're going to do this, we have to do it right. This is something that was for sure the most comprehensive, and they seem like they're ready to do what we've asked them to do. So I would also go with the Center for Public Safety Management.
I also felt strongly that the proposal was the most comprehensive, and their bench of consultants had the greatest experience in the fire services. So that was something that also impressed me about their proposal, and so that would be my recommendation as well. If there's no further discussion, I'll move to appoint the Center for Public Safety Management to conduct a fire services study for Montgomery Township and authorize the township manager to execute the agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Pelletier. Any public comment?
What's the timeline? You give them a call, you say, hey, start it. How long does it take to get the result?
Okay.
Based on their proposal, it looks like 6 months.
For completion.
I'm reading that right, correct?
Yes, that was the scope and what was outlined in the scope. The when they begin is something that we have to follow up with them once this agreement is executed.
Two quick things, and one piggybacks on the urgency. Can we ask them to do, or our own department to do a quickie? I'm trying to figure out, are we going to run out of enough people, enough firefighters between volunteers, part-time and full-time, that we're going to have, like in 3 months, we aren't going to have enough people that we run into a problem? Can they do a quickie cocktail napkin assessment when they start instead of waiting 6 months? Because I asked that at previous meetings, and even when Bill was here, because I kept saying, what are we going to get? How many people do we add so that we meet the 9-minute time? And he said, well, that isn't easy to say. And I just don't want to wait 6 months and then find out 3 months from now we're 3 people short of volunteers because we're short on them. I mean, it's good that we're having the training in January at the station and doing that, but if you could ask them to do that, I think that's a reasonable question, just so we don't, find out 5 months from now, a month before their study's done, we just had a serious problem because we were short of people. So that way we can address it if that's an issue. Fair question. When we
Thank you
engage
for
them.
that suggestion.
If they could do a quickie.
Staff can certainly follow
Quick
up.
staffing assessment, because I talked, I met with Bill a few times and I couldn't really understand when we were going to run out of people to do the job and so forth. And then the last thing is, when they do make a proposal, can they put one up on the website that most of the people in the township can understand? Ironically, 2 days before Bill resigned, I send them an email saying, hey, if you need help writing a proposal, ask me. I'll give you a hand just because I'm about to retire and I've done a lot of proposals. So anyway, those are the two comments. Thanks.
I just want to say, since it took almost 13 minutes over the weekend, we're out of people already.
Homer Lozardo, 119 Embassy Drive. I want to thank you for reconsidering and looking into having a consultant take a look. You're getting actually two things out of this. One, we'll look at the staffing issue, but secondly, as you've mentioned already tonight, the need to look at the capital plan for the next 5 years because you've already done it. This will help you get a start on that because there is going to be more that's going to be needed. In talking with the chief, I mean, I've seen the bunkhouse, you putting 5 guys in there. It's pretty small. I've seen dorm rooms that are bigger than that, and you're putting 5 people in that room. That's really not a great thing. That's going to attract firefighters to the community. So, the only regret I can see is that if we had done that when we first started, we'd probably have our answer by next month. Instead, we're going to start now. So that's where thinking forward and looking ahead pays off. And as was mentioned previously, if we don't agree with the consultant's findings, that's fine. It's not compelling us to do anything, but you never know what you're going to gain other insight wise and what's the future going to look like. So everything, no matter what, from a consultant, you gain some insights. I've never seen one where you gain nothing. If so, then somebody didn't do their due diligence on the consultant to begin with. So I would advise you to move forward with it and see if they can expedite it as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that would be a big ask to the extent that this could be expedited. 6 months just seems, I mean, when we initially, Carolyn, you presented all 3, there was conversation around expediting at that time. So was that, did they give any earlier time frame at that time? I remember the other firm, I think, said 30 days but it was a staffing thing only. That's why I had then asked, were they able to carve out?
We can always ask them, like looking at the proposal, telling them that, like, I'm not as concerned about, say, the apparatus portion of their proposal. So could they take their resources and move forward looking first at staffing for us?
Right. That's a big ask because 6 months
Absolutely
seems crazy. Crazy long.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to appoint the Center for Public Safety Management to conduct I'm sorry, we had a motion in a second, right? We already did that, and then we heard public comment.
Right.
Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
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 Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Unless there's any other business to come before the board, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Tanya, can I ask one quick question? What does the board want to see in terms of scenarios for fire department staffing on the budget? Do you want multiple scenarios? Do you want?
So I think they're looking to see, based on the millage that they're offering, where that gets us as far as staffing.
Okay. But in terms of.
We can talk tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So any public comment on our adjournment? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a great night, everyone.
One of the babies. She's